Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Mirror Dungeon solo video. In today's installment, we'll be going in with She Heathcliff. The She identities are an interesting case, to say the least. All of them gain bonuses for being at low HP. For Heathcliff, his main benefit is gaining an extra attack weight on his skill 3, something that can be invaluable when soloing, as being able to stagger multiple enemies with a single attack is always something you want to have. Now, being at 50% HP is normally really risky. The extra health buffer would always be a preferable option than any benefit you could gain otherwise. Unless it's something absolutely absurd, like instantly killing the enemy when it hits or something. This means that when you are soloing with the She identities, or any that gain low health bonuses for that matter, it's always preferable to ignore the 50% health bonus and just play them like a normal character. That is, unless you're soloing Mirror Dungeon 4 specifically. You see, this dungeon gives access to a very unique ego gift in the form of resolution. For most slash identities, all this provides is extra skill power and some haste. But when it comes to the She identities specifically, it is without a shadow of a doubt in my mind the single most powerful ego gift in the game. When fully upgraded, it provides them with the inability to heal beyond 49% of their max HP, as well as taking 75% less damage and 75% less healing. This allows them to always have their 50% HP bonuses active, but the real draw of the gift is the 75% less damage taken. That's equivalent to 7.5 protection stacks for free. Even just one protection stack can be an absolute game changer. Let me put this into perspective for you. During this entire run, using only resolution and support passives to reduce damage, 90% of all attacks I took never did any more than 1 damage, even when they were fatal. The only downside is the reduced healing, but it isn't even a real downside, to be honest. Since the enemies are doing so little damage, you don't need to heal very much in the first place. If that wasn't enough, it also has a secret third effect that's not mentioned in its description. The She identity's lowest stagger bar is at 60% HP, and because this ego gift locks them to 49% HP, they effectively do not have a stagger bar and cannot be staggered. This gift is so absurdly powerful that its actual real downside is that it's only usable on 3 identities, but goddamn if it doesn't make them look S tier. Just like with Cake or Ponglu, it does have a weakness though, that being status effects. Any bleed, burn, or rupture ignores the 75% reduced damage, so they're always a tricky fight. Support passives are pretty normal for this run, the exceptions being Regret Faust for Clash Power and Blade Lineage G-Song as we are using a Poise identity. Flat Broke Gamblers is the first floor, and our starting gifts are the obvious choice of Resolution, and we happen to pick up enough random gifts along the way to fuse Endorphin Kit before the boss. Thanks to Resolution, this fight is obviously super easy. They don't inflict any dangerous status effects, and don't stand a chance. In fact, we end up doing more damage to ourselves than they do, as Heathcliff's skill 3 always takes 10 HP to use. Our reward is Nebulizer, and we head into the Outcast for the next floor. Here we buy Grey Coat, despite the fact it doesn't work with Heathcliff's skill 3, and Bloody Gadget. Entering into the boss, we face the Golden Apple. Like always, this is an easy fight. The apple barely puts up any fights, as it has such low amounts of skill slots. We are able to easily take off the golden part, triggering its second phase, where we get a serious spike in damage, as since it now has 2 parts, our skill 3 is dealing double damage against it. We take Contained Maggots for our reward, receiving the Phlebotomy Pack and Grand Welcome as a bonus. We choose Tearful Things as our next floor, and finding nothing of note here, we make it to the boss against the Brazen Bull. The Bull is the first actually challenging encounter of the run. Not because of how high he can roll, he still can only do 1 damage after all, but because he inflicts Burn. As Burn is one of the status effects that can ignore the damage reduction of Resolution, we need to be extra careful, making sure it doesn't stack up too high. The best way to do this is to always clash with his skill that inflicts burn count, to make sure that the burn will never carry over multiple turns. Another thing that helps stop the burn from getting too bad is the Phlebotomy Pack we got earlier. Its healing is dependent on the amount of your missing HP, and because we are always missing a minimum of 50%, its healing will always be a substantial amount, even with the 75% reduction thanks to resolution. Of course, clashing with the burn count skill means we don't have enough skills to clash with Overflowing Sorrow, which when left unopposed nukes our sanity. With the bull's high rolls and our reduced sanity, we have to rely on RNG to beat the Overflowing Sorrow and expose the head. Once we do, we can stagger it, and the rest of the fight is pretty easy. Once you manage to destroy the head, the bull gets a ton of permanent attack power down, so we no longer have to worry about losing clashes. This fight is pretty RNG dependent. Its success hinges on whether or not you can win clashes, which the bull is more than willing to make difficult. Still, we managed to prevail and defeat the bull with very little trouble.
방금의 일격은 매우 좋았습니다. 제가 만약 그래, 가자.
탄력이 잘 드네요. 아마 그 공격이 약점이었겠죠? 후원하네!
그래, 가자. 그래, 가자. 그래, 가자.
We take green spirits for our reward and head into Sinking Pang as the next floor, where we buy coffee and cranes and blue Zippo lighter. We also fuse clear mirror calm water before entering the boss against the blubbering toad. I would have much preferred to get the drifting fox for this boss, as it would have made for a much more interesting fight. The toad is a free win for any identity, especially so when it can't do any damage to you. The fox, though, has rupture, which would pose somewhat of a threat. It wouldn't have been too bad and would have provided at least something more to talk about than the nothing that the frog provides. At least he gets to show off the corrosion animation, so that's something at least. Anyway, we take Pendant of Nostalgia for our reward, and wanting a more thematic finish, we head into a certain world for the final floor. We buy Imposed Weight, Lithograph, an extra skill 3, and Devil's Share before fusing Artistic Sense and heading into the final boss against Nelly. She can be pretty scary against non-evade units, as her rolls can be pretty high. Unfortunately for her, she doesn't apply any status effects. Despite the fact that she does fatal pierce damage and can crit, she still never does any damage over 1. Our damage, on the other hand, is honestly kind of ridiculous. Clear Mirror Calm Waters combined with Artistic Sense is honestly a little funny with how much damage it can do. We easily take out Nellie's 3,600 health before we even get all of our skill slots with all of the damage modifiers we have.
완벽한 한방. 시원한걸? 성취 좀 나네.
그래, 가자. 이 왕좌의 민족, 홀로 통치하는 자의 진리. 적들이 우세하고 있는 최고의 구조상을 통치할 수 있었는지
승리가 짝꿍 한방 내겠어.
약점을 잘 치는 것 같네요. 그래, 가자. 다 내 먹잇감들이었지.
And that's how I soloed Mirror Dungeon 4 hard with only she Heathcliff. This was the first and only time I've used this identity, so I'm not entirely familiar with how he plays normally, but I do know that it's incredibly annoying to try and manipulate your health to be below 50%. With Resolution though, he absolutely feels like an S tier identity, to the point where I believe Project Moon should give all of the she identities an extra passive that does a similar thing, though not quite to the same level as the Ego Gift. 75% damage reduction is a bit extreme. Anyway, that's it from me. Like and subscribe to not miss next time where we'll be using this strange identity. Goodbye!